All right, here we go. It is the word for you today, and today is Friday, July 21st. The Bible passage that they gave us to work with today is Mark 11, verses 22-23. I'm going to read them for you. It says, "And Jesus answered and said to them, 'Have faith in God. Truly, I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and be thrown into the sea, be cast into the sea, and whoever does not doubt in his heart, but believes what he says is going to happen, it will be granted to him.'" Now, as we listen to these words from Jesus, the same question keeps coming back to me again and again, over and over. When Jesus talks about a mountain being cast into the sea, can we really take him seriously? I mean, I've been in many mountains. I've been in Colorado, all over the mountains in Colorado, Arkansas, up and down the mountains out there. Been a lot of beautiful mountains. But the truth of the matter, I've still never seen a mountain cast into the sea. So that's exactly the problem we're dealing with here in this text. Jesus invites us to summon up the faith to talk to a mountain and command it to be cast into the sea. Now, not only have I never seen a mountain cast into the sea, I've never talked to anybody that's ever seen a mountain cast into the sea. Matter of fact, I've never really talked to anybody that's talked to a mountain that I'm aware of. But right here we have it, black and white, Mark 11:23. So what are we going to do with this text? I'm sure our first inclination is maybe we try to explain it away somehow. And I heard this story about this, a father who was talking to his son about this very passage. And once he told him about the passage, the boy started looking around. He started looking for things that he might start to move around. He said, "How about that bed? Could I move it? How about the lamp? How about that couch?" All of a sudden, he's wanting to cast stuff around. And the dad, so he kind of takes him and he says, "No, maybe we shouldn't be tempting God with this type of thing." What I love about that story is, more than anything, is the child's exuberance. You see, at least he took Jesus seriously, which is more than what most of us do when it comes to this. And this week I also heard about this internet site. It was called, it's called infidels.org. It's a huge site run by hardcore atheists and agnostics who are fervent unbelievers in the Christian faith. One page on their site is actually listed Bible absurdities, and it's just a long list of Bible verses that they allegedly prove that the Bible is not really the inspired Word of God. Well, obviously, Mark 11:23 is cited as being something that's so absurd that no one could take it seriously. And then I read another story. It's a story about a church in the Great Smoky Mountains. They had built a new sanctuary that was on land donated by this owner who was a member of the church. It turned out the sanctuary was so large that the building inspector would not give them a certificate of occupancy because they lacked sufficient parking. We had to deal with that when we were adding on here. So evidently the new building took up all of the available space. The only unused part of the property was a mountain adjacent to the sanctuary. The Sunday before the sanctuary was supposed to open, the pastor called for a prayer meeting. He called for those who still believed that God could move mountains to come to a prayer meeting that night. Well, guess what? Out of a congregation of 300, how many do you think showed up for that prayer meeting? Yeah, 24. 24 people showed up. They prayed for 3 hours. At the end of 3 hours, the pastor believed that somehow God would move that mountain. Well, the very next day, a man knocked on the pastor's door. He turned out to be a building contractor from a nearby county. They were getting ready to build a new shopping mall. He said that they needed some fill dirt in order for the construction site to be leveled. He asked if his company could buy the mountain behind the church. And he added that if they would allow him to buy the mountain, that he would gladly pay for a brand new parking lot and striping of the parking lot. The pastor agreed. The new sanctuary opened. The person who wrote this story, he commented that there were far more members with mountain moving faith that next Sunday than there were the previous Sunday. Have faith in God is what Jesus told us here in Mark 11. I mean, how simple is that, really? 4 words: have faith in God. Yet somehow those are revolutionary, it seems like, in today's world. A few years ago, when a fun preacher that you might want to listen to sometimes, his name is E.V. Hill, he's from Los Angeles, he preached a 40-minute message on just 2 words. The 2 words were, God is. See, in his unforgettable style, he kept pressing home the point that everything in this universe flows from that one truth: God is. He said, when you figure this out, you've got pretty much a handle on life. Deny this, and nothing else makes sense. So either God is or He isn't. Either God is capable or He's not capable. And if He is, that changes everything. Alexander the Great, he wanted to reward a philosopher who had rendered a great service to him. He told him, "Ask whatever you want of me," the emperor told him. The philosopher took the offer seriously, and he told the royal treasurer he wanted 10,000 pounds of gold. Well, shocked, the treasurer was shocked with this enormous request. And so he refused him. And in anger, he went to the emperor. He went to Alexander the Great, and he told him, he said, "This man has asked for entirely too much. His request is unreasonable." Alexander the Great sat there. He listened patiently as he ranted, and then he instructed the treasurer to give the philosopher what he had asked for. He said this to him. He said, "He honored me in 3 ways. First, he believed my word. Second, he believed my wealth. Third, he believed my willingness to do what I said I would do." Give him the money. He has honored me by his great faith in my words. Isn't that amazing? That fits right along with this text, right along what Jesus tells us to do. I remember praying with some men several years ago, back when we used to do that kind of thing. And one of them said, he said, "Lord, teach us to pray big prayers." I found that very helpful. I found this challenging. It's easy to pray simple prayers. Usually our prayers suffer because our vision is so small. So I asked the question, what's the hardest part about casting a mountain into the sea? Most people might answer, having faith or not doubting with all your heart. And those are true, certainly. But, sometimes I think the hardest part is the courage to talk to a mountain in the first place. I mean, what kind of person literally goes around and talks to mountains? I mean, if you find yourself talking to mountains for long periods of time, people might begin to question your sanity. But yet that's exactly what Jesus tells us to do. Listen, we all have mountains of difficulty in our lives. Sometimes there are great tasks that was laid before us that we have little personal strength to do in which to meet that task. Sometimes these mountains, sometimes they're broken relationships. Sometimes we find them to be habits of sin. Your mountain may involve believing in God when you're dealing with a serious health issue, or maybe dealing with a loved one who is far from the Lord, or it may just mean trusting the Lord in the middle of a failing marriage. One major part of seeing mountains moved in your life is having the courage to speak to the mountain because you believe that God can and will cast it into the sea. Have a great day.